yeah, this is sort of something I did entirely sort of like for fun over the Easter holidays with a group of friends. Is that we set up like an internet radio, and obviously sort of talked about it and sort of like essentially recorded one of them. And we thought like speaking to Ben about it, and sort of said like maybe we're sort of sharing some of the ideas as to how people like could use it or like could have a look at some like new sort of like ways of using like technology on the computers to create like a radio show or a podcast if people are interested in it. So let's say we'll do this in 20 minutes and we'll see how we get on. So first thing, yeah, something to address from last slide is some people asked me some questions like where I get my slide templates from, and basically this is something people may know about, some people may not know about, but essentially there's two websites that I've used. There's slidesgo.com and slidescarnival.com, and they have like an absolute huge array of different sort of Google Slides and PowerPoint templates that you can use and adapt to make your slides look all fancy if you want to. So that's where I get all mine from. There you go, just to answer a question that got asked last time. So yeah, probably a lot of people there going, well, we're teachers, so why do I need to like be able to produce a radio show or a podcast? Like, why do I need to do this? And it's a totally like valid question, I think. And I think the main reasons for me is that before we get on to my example, actually, the sort of main reasons for me is that it's sort of like it really sort of like helps to enhance your own understanding of it. Like if you produce something by just talking about it on your own without getting that direct feedback off like the students, it really sort of makes you focus on what you're saying. Okay, because it means you have to really, really fully understand the content, fully understand the topic before you begin to relay it. And like, just like you would sometimes rehearse a speech sort of thing, is that idea, the fact you rehearse it, you get better at it. And again, obviously it provides like a load of really useful tools. So yeah, so before I sort of like dive more into sort of the benefits of it, I'll quickly play you like an excerpt from the example of the one that I did, which is about the Apollo 11 moon landing. So it's something that I find quite interesting. So I'm going to share my computer sound and play you a short clip of this, which is going to be weird because basically you're going to hear me just back again, but with some interesting stuff. All right.
Decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
Okay, so, and that's sort of like an example of like me using the music sort of like to cut through into, hopefully it's back on, yep, to cut through and then obviously start the radio show, and then sort of talked about the Apollo 11 moon landings and went on to sort of like expand it into deeper sort of understandings. Like I said, if you want to listen to that, I can send that sort of like the full thing out. It's about an hour long. Can I go through like the whole Apollo 11 moon landing shtick? Which I quite enjoyed. But yeah, so essentially, what was some the sort of like the good reasons of doing that? So, and why sort of like some people like have liked it, and why sort of I think it'd be a good thing to maybe sort of like if you wanted to do for your students, if you've got extra time and it's something you're looking to do. So first of all, obviously, it's really good for engagement because it's a completely new way of like lesson content to be delivered. So like say the students are going to engage with, you've got music, you've got you talking about the things that you're really, really passionate about. Okay, so hopefully it would like cultivate that engagement because you're going to produce a radio show that you'd want to listen to. And this is the idea, or like a podcast. And like it's the fact that like you're not just doing it to like regurgitate the GCSE content, you're doing it in a new and exciting way, okay, to make them interested in your sort of subject. Again, it gives you that fresh viewpoint on it. Like through that discussion of the Apollo 11 moon landings, there's loads of aspects talked about in there, not just about space, but also about engineering and even quite a lot of stuff about maths and angles and even like aspects of geography, about like basically mapping out an entirely different extraterrestrial object like the moon to find a landing site that fits their view, that fits all the guidelines. So like a fresh viewpoint on loads of different angles to take from this sort of radio show. And again, like I say, it's this idea of a different application of our skills. It's a different application that the students wouldn't be used to. Like say, rather than them doing questions and answering and looking through things in certain ways, it's all based on It's like you driving this, and it's something that they can just like have and like look at or listen to whenever they were interested in it, or whether just to sort of like keep them curious essentially. And obviously the last thing again is obviously links back to the idea of the world of work, and sort of links back into sort of a career focus, like being a radio presenter or being like a podcaster is something that's really, really popular these days with our students. And if like we can do this and we can show them that it is really easy and possible to do, then you may get questions about that. Or again, the topics that you cover may actually lead them into sort of like a career that they're like, oh, actually, I didn't know you could be really interested about space. And there's all these different careers in it, or with engineering or whatever field it was that you wish to do your podcast about. So just to really sort of like bring it back to the research a little bit, is it does, like say, like Ben says, we do have obviously our links to Rose and Shine at the moment. And again, one of the sort of Rose and Shine's fifth sort of technique was to guide students' practice. And basically what we're doing here is we're showing a student a new way to access their content. We're not just giving them problem after problem after problem after telling them the thing once. We're giving them the content in the lessons, but then we're also broadening their options outside of it by telling them that, hey, you can listen to this radio show I've done, or you can watch this video that I've found, or you can sort of like answer all these exam questions. It's like they're not just getting like one direct route they've got to go at to get their results. They've also got all these other aspects of different ways they can do things. And then another one I found from this sort of like the Institute of Art Implementation, so like looking at the art and the STEAM sort of group, they basically said that podcasts are really interesting because they can be used to extend student learning with critical links between content areas. Okay, by having a common theme, you can then link between them through a sort of concurrent radio show. And then the other really interesting idea was the fact that they sort of said that there's a cool bit of research suggesting that student learning can be really, really massive if they start to create their own podcasts. By creating their own, then allows them to communicate even better with parents in the community. So it's a really good idea of students being able to show how proud they are of their work by producing this sort of like available resource essentially. And again, the podcasts are really good because essentially the student can listen to it, and obviously parents can listen to it as well and get an understanding of what sort of things their child is interested in and what their child is learning at school just from these sort of like realm of podcasts that they're enjoying. So that's just like a short like little link into sort of the research, and like there is actually some backing to how podcasts and radio shows may actually have some benefit. Again, they're completely sort of like extra thing, like say it's one of those extra things that if you've got the time and it's something you're interested in, to give it a go. That's what I did. I thought, why not give it a go? Like I say, it's not something you have to do, just a cool little idea, something you could try out, sort of thing. So then I want to spend like the most time of this just sort of showing how I made mine, because I think that's going to be sort of most useful, is like how do I actually sort of like how did I actually produce that? How did I put it together? What sort of bits and bobs did I use? So I used only two pieces of software. One's a website and one's completely free. The first one's called Mix, MIXX. It is as corny as it sounds, and it is a DJing piece of software. And the last thing I used was a really, really cheap and probably not wholly sort of like incredibly legal thing to use, but it's okay if you use it under certain sort of rights, as long as we're not sort of selling it and publicizing it or like profiting off this. If we're just keeping it internal, we're okay to use these sort of pieces of software, which is basically YouTube to MP3 converter. So basically, I'll talk you through these different converters, and I'll show the YouTube to MP3 converter, and I'll show you how to use the software. So basically, it's a website, and all it will do is it will take any YouTube link you paste in it, and it will allow you to download it, okay, to an MP3. Okay, so for example, we've got this piece of music here, which I'm just a random music. So this is from the Gladiator soundtrack. I take the link I want, copy it, paste it in there, and then hit go, and it will do it for you. It'll sort of start to do it all automatically. You just hit convert, and it'll start it up. When it's finished, you can then just download it to your computer. So we'll see how long this takes for it to do. There you go, 60%, 100%. And then when it finishes up, I thought a big one that'd be nice and quick. When it finishes up, it will then load up on the side, and I'll be able to just quickly hit download. And it's always the case that whenever you do things live, it takes a lot longer to happen. There you go. So there it comes up there, and then I just sort of download, and it'll download it to my computer, which is quite nice there. So let's show you guys Mix, and I'll show you how I made this piece of software. So I'll show you into Mix now. So let's show you into Mix. So here's Mix. So this is Mix. It looks like your standard sort of like DJing software. The basic reason I use this one, the main reason I use this one is because it allowed us to have complete direct radio streaming, because basically I streamed mine online to a live broadcast through like an internet server, because me and my friends ran an internet radio for a day. So that's why I use this software. So there's loads of other ways to do podcasts, just simple stuff. Like if you look for any apps on like iPhones, iPads, Stuart's just said there's one called Errata or Ferrite on iPad that was a really good one that you can use to making podcasts there. So this is the one I used. Basically works like a simple DJing software. If you've ever used any of those before, you can put your MP3s into this bottom slot here by sort of like dragging and dropping them in. It's quite straightforward. And then all I do then is I select the sort of piece of music I wanted to play. So let's say we want to go for 2001 Space Odyssey, because this is just this is all the stuff I had for the space thing, because that's the only one I've done. I drag and drop it into there, and then I've got my normal sort of controls. I can sort of like play it up, and obviously it'll play through it. I can scrub through it if I need to. I can skip to different points. Okay, and obviously if you want to, you can mix between the two just like you would normal DJing software. The main sort of best tools for this I found was being able to use the slider here for killing the music. So if I hit play, the music will kick in really loudly. Obviously I can bring it quieter again and quieten it all the way down. So obviously, like I say, simple DJing software, which some of you will be more than used to using. And you just mess around with it as much as you want. And then obviously the main thing for the podcast obviously is your microphone. So your microphone function is down here, and I can just set it so that I can talk by turning my microphone on, and that will record my microphone voice through there, or toggle it off. Okay. And that essentially was kind of the software that I use. As I've sort of messed around with it a little bit, and the more you play around with it, the better you'll get. And like the way I faded between the two pieces of track was by putting another song over here, and then essentially I had this one, I had it the mix all the way over, started playing them, matched them up, and then just faded across between the two. So something like this. You guys are away.
Mr. Vice President, Governor, Congressman Thomas, Mr. Wiley, and Congressman Miller, Mr. Webb, Mr. Bell, scientists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your president having made me an honorary.
So it's like one of those things, like everyone's like, that must be really tricky to do that sort of stuff, but it's really simple. Like you saw there, all I had was my sort of like two pieces of music, two tracks up there, and like say, and like just literally slide this from one side to the other as slowly and as steadily as you want for that effect. And again, like say, you can be as fancy with this as you want to be, but a lot of people when they do podcasts, they just record their own voice, and that is totally fine. Like say, you can record your own voice in any way you want it to do, and then I say. But if you wanted to use music and do some more fancy stuff, you can do these things. You can add effects to it. You can sort of like have some really cool ideas. And then whenever you got it all set up, you've had to play around with it and you're ready to sort of like get going with it. What you can do is you can hit this record button, and this record button is up here, and you just start the recording. And that, as soon as I click that, it starts the recording of my radio show. And I turn it off, and that saves it. It saves automatically to a file system in your computer. And I say, it's really, really nice, straightforward piece of software to do that does the basic stuff really easily, but you can get really advanced with it as much as you want to. Okay. If you were going to use it, one of the things I would definitely recommend you do is on the preferences, and I'll make a screenshot of this, is on the preferences. You want to make sure that this option here on microphone monitor mode is set to direct monitor. Because essentially, if that is not to direct monitor, essentially is it just feedbacks your microphone back through your speakers or your headphones, making it really, really tricky to talk. So basically, that's the only setting that I sort of really had to adjust, was making sure I set microphone monitor mode to direct monitor. That's the only thing I had to really change. Otherwise, it would just, you basically get that recurring loop in the back of your head that really, really means that you can't speak anymore. It's really freaky. You just can't talk anymore when that happens. And now this thing is completely blocking my screen because I've got webcams all over here. So cut that off. There we go. But yeah, so that essentially is that software. It's completely free. It's open source. It's free open source software, so you're completely okay to go grab it online, have a look through it, and play around with it as much as you want to. And that essentially is that. Let's go back to this one. So yeah. And that's essentially the radio show, okay? I used a piece of software to mix it together. I recorded it on the fly. I queued up the music when I wanted to queue up the music. and I talked around it and talked through it and sort of like got as fancy with it as I want it to be, sort of thing. But again, for podcasting, it's all about these sort of ideas, the fact that you take it, you do whatever you want to do with it. Adding a bit of music can really increase the engagement. Using like sort of like real clips from like interviews or other videos is totally good to do. Like there I had like JF Kennedy's like famous like moon speech, and obviously talked through that and talked over that, and that really sort of like helped to amplify what I was doing, sort of thing. So again, like I say, hopefully you found some of that useful. Okay, I know that software may not be for everybody, but again, hopefully I've shown that there's some of the stuff you can do with it is really straightforward and really simple. And like I say, you can do some really clever things with it really easily. Even if you just take away the idea of the fact you can download YouTube videos as MP3 files to store on your computer, that again is a really good, valid tool that you can use. Okay, but again, I think I've bit under time, which is okay. I finished all the stuff I wanted to. So thank you for listening, guys.